We're back with a vengeance.
If you ever felt like you didn't have enough trauma in your life, like maybe things are going too good for you, you don't have enough questions about existentialism, yeah, then you should watch The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy because they will spark some things inside you that you will never get back. Nah, I'm just kidding. So, Billy and Mandy Season 1 is such a trip. Through 18 episodes split up in some random way that I can't even describe to you guys. All I know is I had to split this up into 2 videos. I'll release, like, the whole first season as one later, but I didn't want to risk showing you guys a 2-hour video and just not clicking it. So, here it is. This is the second half of Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Season 1. And we got some really funny references in this, starting off with even Harry Potter as a reference, and ending on their first ever Halloween special, which, this entire show is Halloween, guys. Stop playing around with me. I know your games. So without further ado, let's jump into it. What's up, everybody? It's Johnny2000, focusing on 2000s movies, TV, and so much more. So let's dive into the next couple episodes. So, the next episode is number 9, Toadblatt's School of Sorcery. And this is like a full-on Harry Potter knockoff. I would more so say parody because it's more funny than anything else. So, Billy and Mandy are supposed to be sent to summer camps, which neither of them want to go to. So, they have Grim send them to Toadblatt's School of Sorcery instead. They meet the Dean Toadblatt, and he puts a squid on their head, kind of like that thing that tells you which Harry Potter house you're in. And yeah, it tells them to be a part of the Weaselthorpe house, the worst house on campus, while Toadblatt makes Grim the teacher of the Gunderstank house, which is crazy because, like, they admire Grim. He's, like, really cool to them. I don't even get it. For the first time, we meet Nigel Planter. He's, like, this wizard that definitely is a parody of Harry Potter and a lot more egotistical than he would be, though. He's getting ready for the House of Championship, and the Gunderstank apparently always win. Mandy ends up making a plan that they should sabotage Gunderstank, which Nigel ends up taking credit for, like, as if he's this, like, horrible kid. So she switches one of the potions with an invisibility potion in Grim's potion class. It's so funny to think that Grim would be a teacher, though. He's got such, like, positive teacher vibes. I feel like that would work for him. But obviously, he has an eternal commitment to Mandy, so he can't really do that. Billy and Mandy keep causing destruction to this whole place by, like, stealing the broomstick and actually releasing a dragon that destroys the castle as well. So these guys are essentially ruining the entire business. And Toadblatt just gets more and more angry, which I would too. You're destroying my school. And eventually, Weaselthorpe wins the house championship. Nigel claims the credit, and it really annoys Mandy. At the celebration party, Nigel attempts to kiss Mandy, which is nuts, and she tricks him into admitting that he cheated. And this kid tries to get his way out of it. Like, he is not even subtle about that.
Tell me again how you sabotaged Gunderstank.
Oh, well, I messed up that invisibility potion and then put a dragon in stupid old Dean Toadblatt's house, and I made out with his dog.
Nigel Planter.
And then a really dark ending, instead of getting finished and expelled from the school, Nigel is just sent to a battleground where everybody is able to attack him and pummel him, which is really depressing. I love how the ending is bad, but Billy and Mandy still end up winning. Like, that's a really dark ending. Oh, and I love the next episode so much. So this one's called Educating Grim, and Grim's bragging that he doesn't have to go to school like Billy and Mandy and ends up having to go anyway. He gets his own backpack, shows up to the class, and he's actually pretty positive about the experience. Mandy is definitely keeping him warned because she is not about to lose her best friend to anybody. And by best friend, I essentially mean slave because she makes Grim do anything she wants. And we meet Mindy for the first time, which is Mandy's rival. Get it? Mindy, Mandy. You change one letter and it's essentially the same name. Yeah, it's not really a joke, but it's at least something. Grim kind of plays like the naive new kid here, even though he's literally the Grim Reaper, and is immediately complimented when Mindy wants to be his friend. He actually takes it really seriously. It's so funny to see Grim's desire for acceptance. Like, it clearly gets in the way of everything he does in life, and he just, like, never learns his lesson. They indoctrinate Grim into Mindy's group of the popular kids, which in this context is just wearing a really weird pink hat with smiley faces and a robe. Grim fits in really well and actually learns the lingo within moments. Almost like Mindy doesn't even want him to be friends. She's just using him to make Mandy mad.
Your best friend?
You're my best friend ever.
I miss Grim.
My favorite thing about this episode, though, is the fact that they replaced Grimm with Abraham Lincoln. I mean, like, I don't even know how they do this, but Abraham Lincoln becomes a substitute for Grimm and follows them around, a part of their friend group. Mandy tries to warn Grimm by trapping him in this Star Wars-esque chasm, where she tells him that Mindy does not actually want to be his friend, they're just using him. But Grimm is in denial, he wants to be accepted, so he doesn't believe her backstory, which is kind of sad because Mandy never gives us backstory. We see her as a little kid and she's so sweet. Turns out the only reason she's her enemy is because she told her one day to shut up and not talk, and they've been enemies ever since. Which, if that's not logical for kids, I guess nothing is. Abraham Lincoln takes these kids on such a wild ride. Like, he brings out an axe, he insists on taking logs from the mall. Like, they just keep leaning into the fact that Lincoln made a log cabin as his entire personality, which I kind of find hilarious. He builds one within the mall, which doesn't make sense. With Grimm still in denial about Mindy's intentions, they're all hanging out at the mall in their new group, and Grimm even gives in his scythe for some nice roller skates. Wow, he really is committed to this group. Mindy ends up being friends with Abraham Lincoln instead of Grimm because she wants to make Mandy mad more than she cares about Grimm. So he gets thrown across the mall, and a sad wake-up call that she doesn't actually care about him. So that's when he goes back to Mandy and Billy, and everything is normal again, and he's just happy to be taken advantage of by the right kids. Yeah. That doesn't sound simple, does it? But nothing about this show is. It's either a bad ending or a kind of bad ending, but never really a good one, you know? It's a Pokemon parody, and I love that we get like a little Billy trading card. I wish this existed in real life. And this is one of like the kids' fantasies coming true. Like, we look at Pokemon cards and we're like, whoa, this is so rare, and it's so cool to have all these like little monsters. Definitely what they were parodying at the time. Arwen and Billy, of course, are at the center of this trend, taking it so seriously they end up in physical altercations just because of the cards. Grimm is kind of fascinated at how it entrances them so much and actually brings some of the monsters to life. Grimm and Arwen are so excited they want to take all of the cards and make them monsters, and it actually works. I feel like this is definitely a moment where we see Grimm's magic as more of a positive thing than a negative thing. Like Fairly Odd Parents, he's like making wishes and they come true. And sometimes Billy and Mandy get wishes, but more so it's a lot of negative impact or something from the underworld coming to get them. But in this instance, it actually benefits them. And as a kid, I remember feeling this like idealistic, wow, what if I could have a Pokemon card and get these animals to life? And I like how we explore that in this really dark way. The little monsters cause destruction all across town, and it's funny because everybody becomes jealous of Billy and Arwen for having their own monsters, so Grimm suddenly has to grant everybody's cards with the same magic. Next thing you know, there's so many little beings all around, it's kind of horrifying. The entire world is essentially taken over by these monsters, as if Pokemon didn't do that already, and the whole place falls into eternal darkness. With Mandy barely caring until she looks outside, she tries to make a card of her own, which Grimm brings to life. Grimm doesn't really help with the situation at all, it's mainly Mandy. So the stick figure Mandy drew on the card is brought to life, and she uses it to turn everybody into toast.
And with its own special powers, turn those horrible monsters into toast, whereby hundreds of pigeons quickly devour it.
And she turns out the light at the end. Oh gosh, this is like a terrifying one, especially when she's in bed with the thing she drew later. Like, it's disturbing. All around, like, Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy is not afraid to get wacky this early into the series. And it's like, you guys have a lot of guts to do all this.
What are you looking at?
The next episode is called Night of the Living Grimm, and it kind of balances a lot of horror themes really well. Like, there's always that, like, trope of imagining you could die if you were alive, or, like, seeing yourself as a zombie, or, like, losing your life. I don't know. It's kind of like that, but the opposite for Grimm. It's almost like a horror story that he turns into a real person. Billy's playing a video game where there's, like, toxic green slime that kills some of the characters, and then it appears in his living room with him. Mandy's a little suspicious, and we find out that the reason there's so much of this slimy stuff is because Grimm is sick. I didn't realize the Grim Reaper could get sick, especially from humans, because apparently he got sick from Arwen, who was sticking his finger in his nose. Oh gosh. Mandy makes it up to Billy to clean up the mess, and when he goes downstairs, he doesn't see anything until the slime all comes together into a giant monster. He ends up sucking it dry with the vacuum, and Mandy is just trying to take care of Grimm. Grimm is taken to the doctor by Billy and Mandy in the underworld, and I love this world building of seeing what's going on down here. Like, it's horrifying. We get to see a lot of, like, stereotypical hospital antics going on, but this time under the lens of being in the underworld. Like, there's like a zombie doctor, a monster assistant, and he operates on Grimm in such a dramatic way that you think he's about to die, which is kind of wacky. It ends up being worse. Post-surgery, Grimm turns out to be a human, and everybody thinks it's horrifyingly scary, which I do too. Grimm as a human is gross. He kind of looks like Mr. Crocker a little bit, with a bigger chin, I guess. But he doesn't really know how to be a human being. Like, he takes Billy's clothes, he goes throughout the mall, and doesn't really know how to be a person. Mandy tells people that he's a foreign exchange student, and next thing you know, all the girls at the mall are hitting on him. Oh my gosh. So he's actually kind of into this. One of the girls' boyfriends even beats up Grimm because he's getting all the attention, which is so funny. Grimm always has to get like the short end of the stick. Like, this seems like it's a good thing for him, but ends up not benefiting him at all. Billy's mom becomes caring toward him finally and takes care of his black eye until Billy's dad thinks she's hitting on him. Oh my god, poor Grimm.
Thank you, France. You're so cute. I mean, helpful.
And that's my wife!
Harold smacks him, and he just, like, doesn't win anything in this episode. Until the slime monster comes back, eats him alive, and takes off all of his human skin. So Grimm is back to being the old skeleton and bones he was before. So this one actually is a positive ending. I'm happy about that. And you know how these episodes are broken up into 3? Like 7 minutes, and then 7 minutes? Well, the next 2 halves of this 3-part are actually a part 1 and 2. So a 14-minute episode? I don't know. The way they did this is kind of weird to me. It's called Brown Evil parts 1 and 2, and we're just going to talk about it as if it's 1. Billy's playing video games, as that's the only thing he ever does, and it looks like he has a GameCube, because I can't imagine another system looking like this. Oh, it is! Look, it even says Lame Cube. Oh my gosh. They get a Hostel Gato video game? President Evil. Wow, wonder what that's parroting. So yeah, he's beating up a bunch of evil zombies in the game, and Mandy's a gamer girl too, so she's also doing that. In a similar way that when Billy turned evil with Grimm's book, he borrows Grimm's evil powder when he's out of salt. He's like, oh, this'll do. It's like, why are you going into your basement for ingredients, Billy? That's disgusting. Finds a voodoo doll of himself in Grimm's safe, and I feel like we need to talk about that. He finishes his brownies with Grimm's recipe, and they stink. Nobody really likes him except for Grimm, who thinks they're, like, incredible. He's supposed to throw them out, but instead stashes them all in his head. The stench of these brownies end up going throughout the graveyards of Ensville, bringing zombies to life, only for them to show up at Billy's door. Okay, so it's a zombie raid episode. I was waiting for this. I feel like supernatural episodes are always interesting when they have that zombie plot point, mainly because they do it all the same. It's a bunch of these slow-moving corpses that are trying to attack you, and you kind of have ample time to get away from them, but they're still scary. That's kind of what happens in this whole episode.
You called.
There's a friend of yours at the door.
No, Billy. That's a zombie.
Mandy volunteers Billy to go out and stop this whole thing because, you know, it kind of is his fault. So with confidence, he struts on out there and the door is locked behind him. Mandy and Grimm watch from the confines of Billy's house in only shadow form, and I love the art in this. Like, this show is really good at depicting a really horror-esque town. It feels like it's like straight out of Goosebumps. With Billy surrounded and only a stick as his weapon, the episode cuts off right there and we're left to be continued. And then Billy even comments on it. He's like, am I gonna be okay? We get a whole new title card for part 2, and we leave off from where Billy was. The entire town is being ransacked by zombies, the news is reporting on it, and it's definitely horrifying. Like, everything that was dead starts to come alive. Even caribou, a bunch of little chickens, and it's disturbing. Billy's not really able to beat them on their own. Before Billy gets eaten, he's saved by Hostel Gato, the guy who saves everybody from the undead and supernatural. And this guy's really cool. I like that he comes in to save the day a lot. It's cool because it also mirrors Billy's video game when he was playing as Haas, and now suddenly everything has come to real life. They learn that the only reason these zombies are here and surrounding them is because Grimm did not throw away the brownies. Oh, come on, Grimm. He was too into eating them, and he stashes them in his skull, which, if I could do that, you bet I would.
Whatever those zombies are after is in his head.
Brownies.
Haas calls him out, and so Grimm and Haas start getting into like this really epic battle with each other, which I kind of like. It's funny that you don't really know whose side you're on. Even Billy is like, oh, I don't know who to cheer for. Because even though Grimm is the evil one, he's also their friend, so it's kind of confusing. Grimm ends up winning, but is it really a victory? Hans ends up punching his skull into the backyard where he is eaten because he is the brownies, which, come on, Grimm, you weren't expecting that. The brownies end up causing this monster to explode, and then we get one more glimpse of Billy playing the video game with Haas. The And except for you see a dead chicken come to life at the end, and you don't think it's over, which of course they couldn't end on a happy note.
Evolution doesn't take prisoners.
Whew. This next one is a time-traveling one. Season 1, Episode 11, Mandy the Merciless. So Grimm shows the kids a crystal ball where they could look into their future. They see Ennsville and a bunch of years forward from now, and Mandy is the ruler of it. Surprised? I'm not. She takes on this form of like a giant slug-like creature that stands in the darkness, and then Grimm and Billy are dressed up in dystopian wardrobe as they serve Mandy.
There's something different about you. I can't put my finger on it. Is it your hair?
You didn't notice I'm now a hideous, disgusting, worm-like creature?
Billy comes out of this little pod to show that, like, maybe he came from the past, but they're both kind of serving her. Turns out there's a lot of Billy clones, and this one isn't special. And this is really eerie. Like, I hate seeing this dark of a future and them not being concerned about the way it's going at all. Like, Mandy gives Billy a little bit of a tour. She lets Billy know that they have these cinnamon mines where that's actually the thing that keeps her alive. And if they had the opposite of cinnamon, which in this universe is frogs, she wouldn't be able to survive. But she doesn't want anybody to figure that out, so she tells Billy to keep his mouth quiet. Next thing you know, though, Billy finds a whole underground rebellion. Grimm is a part of this rebellion, and it's Erwin, it's Billy's dad Harold, and Billy crashes the whole party. So in this dystopian future, everybody is trying to find a way to take down Mandy the Merciless. She is the major villain of this world. And I love how Arwen is the one spearheading getting rid of her. They're trying to figure out the opposite of Cinnamon to take Mandy down, and Billy gives him the insight that it's frogs. So right when we think that everybody's gonna save the day, they go in, try to use a frog against Mandy, but she reveals that she purposely misled Billy because she knew this would happen. So once again, Mandy has outsmarted everybody in the show to a point where she's even ruled the world. Oh my gosh. It takes us out right at the climactic moment with them breaking Grimm into a bunch of little pieces. And then we see Mandy with the crystal ball and everybody else scared. Gosh, this is an intense first season episode, guys. So the next one we go to is Creating Chaos, and we get this golden apple back. It starts with Billy eating this disgusting bug off the floor. Ew, why do I have to watch this? Ugh, I just wanted to watch a retrospective about an old 2000s cartoon, and I'm watching a kid eat ants. It's disgusting, guys. Come on, animators. Mandy and Grimm just come back from a fishing trip. Billy begs to go on a fishing trip with Grimm and Mandy, and so they go out fishing. They end up running into Eris in this Greek-inspired chasm in the middle of the ocean, where she gives Billy this chaotic apple. Turns out she's specifically not allowed to use it, but she acknowledges that that doesn't count if it's somebody else. So she gives it to Billy, which is the worst idea I've ever heard. Like, Billy is more than just stupid. And it's an entire episode of Eris trying to use Billy to use this apple for her, but he's so much of a handful that she's essentially taking care of him and not able to get him to use the apple the way she wants him to. She gets increasingly frustrated, which I would too, and it's just getting funnier and funnier as it goes on. This goes on for quite some time until Eris has had enough and essentially wants to get away from Billy.
Tornadoes, floods, baby leprechauns, you know. Come on, I don't have all day!
And this becomes a common trope throughout the show where people are so angry and annoyed with Billy's stupidity that it almost traumatizes them and ends up going into crazy mode. And that's kind of how this episode ends. Eris runs away in fear and Billy and Mandy are like, what did you do? And that's just the end of it. The next episode is called A Really Odd Couple, kind of a parody of The Odd Couple, a TV sitcom. And this one is actually about a conflict between Billy and Mandy, which I don't think we had this much yet. Billy brings over this disgusting bag of an odor, and he says that, I don't even want to go over what's in it. And it ends up exploding in Mandy's house, essentially quarantining her. And she looks disgusting, like it destroys everything. This has gone too far for Mandy. We literally cut away to the next scene and Billy is crying because she kicked him out, which I would too, Billy. This is disgusting. Next thing you know, Mandy and her parents show up to Billy's house because their house is under quarantine. What did I tell you? So Mandy gets to live with Billy. This concept is really funny to me. Like, I love that they're like best friends, but they can't stand each other at the same time. Makes a situation like this just like intolerable. Billy's super optimistic about them hanging out together, and Mandy is upset. She separates the room with tape, which is kind of something they did on the Brady Bunch in the 80s, where they mark their territory. This leads to an argument between Billy and Mandy, and they fight like brother and sister. It's kind of cute, actually.
Have I mentioned that I hate your bed?
That's okay. You're sleeping on the floor.
I don't know how, but Mandy turns on the TV and only half of it goes on. Billy ends up disrespecting Mandy's boundaries and getting into a huge altercation that Grim has to go up and solve. Oh my gosh. I love how Grim is chilling with the parents. Like, they've just all accepted that he's here now and it's just a part of life. So Grim goes up and he's essentially the middleman in this argument. And seeing Billy and Mandy both argue at each other is really funny. They like fight over Grim. It's definitely a prelude to Keeper of the Reaper, one of my favorite episodes of Billy and Mandy. Grim essentially begs them to get along and they're like, okay, fine, we will. With Grim leaving and thinking everything's okay, but the episode ends with Mandy cementing Billy into the wall. And that's just the way it ends, I guess. This show loves to take you on a destructive journey, that's for sure.
Turn it up so you can hear the screaming.
So for season 1, episode 12, we have 2 segments, finally. I'm so sick of doing 3-segment episodes. It feels like I'm doing triple the amount of work, guys. So it's called Who Killed Who, and it's based off this board game that Billy and Erwin are playing. And it looks a lot like Clue. I feel like that's the way it's going. And Mandy is told that she can't play with them because she's a girl. Oh my god, Billy, but she's your best friend. It's so funny because Billy like calls her his best friend all the time, but at the same time leaves her out. It definitely gives me insight on the writer's mentality at the time. Like early 2000s, I feel like we were a lot more immature, so like we separated girls and boys a lot more socially. So it's a basic premise at the beginning, like Billy and Arwen accidentally drop their dice into the neighbor's yard, but it's a haunted house that says stay out and everybody's like suspicious of it. Grim comes in to clarify that you should be scared, and then there's like a little backstory about a kid trying to retrieve his baseball from the backyard and then end up gone missing, even turned into a scarecrow because some lady is living in there that is really incognito. Mandy tries to call everybody out on the bluff, saying that like there's no such thing as ghosts and that there's no way one is in there, so she tries to disprove everybody by going in herself. Oh my gosh. And it's so funny because Mandy is like so confident, almost like nothing scares her. She raises her eyebrows a couple times in this sequence, but I just feel like she's not scared at all. And then she meets this woman that actually lives here. At first she's like this ghostly figure and Mandy just kind of stays there, I guess. And then they get along. Like the next scene it cuts to them and she's just a random old lady and Mandy is just her friend. Mandy gets insight into all the rumors they heard about the place, like the name of the tarantula. So then Mandy actually confronts the woman and is like, is any of this true? Like the things that go on in this house?
Somebody told me a story that you fed the bones of some kid to your pet spider and that you're really a ghost.
And then she points out that if Grim made this up, he's lying. And then she proceeds to show her pictures of Grim losing everything to her. Like, they're boxing and he loses. They had a staring contest and he loses. And she even took his dog, which is insane. But yeah, so he's probably just being a sore loser. And this woman seems to have Grim at her clutches. But she doesn't get mad until she finds out that Billy left Mandy out because she was a girl. And it makes her super furious, getting a darker tone to this whole thing.
To win against a boy like Billy, all it takes is some girl power. And some girl powder.
And then there's like this insane montage, like a fever dream of Mandy being the puppy and running away from Billy. And I'm like, geez, this is like psychologically challenging. It definitely is starting to remind me of like Rick and Morty. Like the things that people like about that show is the fact it's like metaphorical, it's deep, it has a little bit of existentialism mixed in with comedy. Like these shows are doing that just as well, if not better, because their subtlety is really good. The storytelling is really freaky. But it's treating us like we're like really smart readers, you know, kind of like a Stephen King book. But they draw in people like me who like comedies. Because this woman is still kooky. Like, she's a part of a really interesting story, but like, she's still all about don't let people step on you. And she helps Mandy get back at Billy by causing a nightmare. He goes screaming out of the house. And then the episode ends with Mandy realizing that Grim must have killed her, which is kind of terrifying. I feel like some of the episodes actually scare me too much. But the end kind of confused me. I feel like it's like, why did Grim have to be a part of it still? Because like his character left halfway through the episode and then it was just him in a single frame. Like, I don't know if we should be scared of Grim. I'm not sure what the takeaway from this is. So the next segment on this half is called Tween Wolf. And in it, it's more like a best dog in show type episode. It stems from when Grim is using this magic hat from the underworld that apparently has supernatural powers. It goes flying off the window into into the streets only for Arwen to find it. Okay, weird start. Next thing you know, you just hear a bunch of growling noises, scary voices, and Billy is digging a hole in his yard. I'm pretty sure Arwen is possessed at this point because he just has dark orange eyes and he's furious at Billy. This is the weird part. So he activates under a full moon, but then it's not the actual full moon, it's a baby's butt on a billboard. And I get that's funny, writers, but it's still a kid's show. You gotta stay a little appropriate. Ew, Arwen changes in a disgusting way. Like his entire body becomes that of a beast. And it's kind of disturbing looking. The imagery on this show tends to go really far sometimes. Like, does this teen wolf really have to have six-pack abs in most of these shots? I don't think so. So then Billy brings Arwen as his dog to the park, and next thing you know, it's threatening Mandy's dog. Billy says harassing, which is so funny. This comes between Billy and Mandy, and they're both determined to win the dog show, now against each other, which is interesting. I feel like it's not a lot of them pitted against one another. So we cut to the best in show, and then there's this really annoying woman that is hosting the whole thing. And she's actually pretty impressed with Arwen, which is nice. Mandy and Grimm are watching from the stands, and they're actually planning on taking him down. So they send this little possessed flea to attack, bite, and turn Arwen back to normal. And then he doesn't even have any clothes on but his bow tie. How is his bow tie still attached to his body? Anyway, he embarrasses himself and loses the dog show. But we're celebrating because apparently it got in the newspaper, and then Arwen turns back into a wolf. The end. Not only that, a car hits him before the credits roll. You guys, this is sadistic, this show.
Can you feel the love?
So the next episode is 13, and part 1 is Grimm in Love. I don't know if you guys know who Elvira is, but it's like this character actress that did a bunch of movies, and it's more so about the fact that she's like a goth, fashionable vampire. You could correct me if I'm wrong on that. I just looked that up. In this episode, Grimm has a crush on this character and falls in love with her. It feels like it's just a montage of Grimm and this woman, and it's so funny. She runs to the top of the grave and does the Titanic pose, and it's kind of cute, I think. The fact that everything they do together is all about death and murder is ridiculous to me. And the joke in the diner of her pretending to die and Grimm knowing she's not actually dying and he looks like a jerk to everybody else, it's just so unnecessary. I feel like this is just a montage.
What do you mean you can tell when someone fakes?
Trust me, I know.
But good for Grimm. I feel like he's always been lonely on this show, so it's nice to see him have a moment with somebody else. I feel like a part of him associates this with freedom. He's like, oh, I don't have to be Mandy's friend anymore because I found love. Because when he goes back to them, Mandy's essentially like, oh no, you're not allowed to have a relationship. And she demands that he tells her he's not human, which is, I can't believe she didn't understand that immediately. He literally is a skeleton. Oh my gosh, I'm not sure if you guys seen Curb Your Enthusiasm, but Grimm would be awesome played by Larry David. I feel like that would be such a good role for him. So him and this girl go on a date, and he's supposed to tell her that he's not human, hoping that she'll still stay with him. He ends up not needing to tell her because they're called onto stage, do a little dance, and then they have a scare off. So then Grimm basically tells her that he's not human by horrifying her. She runs off, and that's how it ends. Gosh, I feel so bad. Sometimes when the ending is like this traumatic, it's kind of hard to laugh because it's a funny episode in nature, but it's also like, poor Grimm, this is so depressing. It seems like all these segments are about love because the next one is called Crushed, and it's about Arwen asking out Mandy, and she rejects him pretty quickly, and she is not even afraid of hurting anybody's feelings. Like, she just goes heartless, which is kind of funny because she has a crush on this new guy here. So Billy has a friend named Piff, and he's this like alternative rock tortured artist type, and I guess that's what they want her to be into. So she has a crush, changes her a little bit, and she is ashamed of this side of her that's in love. It's so weird that we like view it as such an evil part of her, and that she's like, this is something I need to get rid of. It comes in the way of me being strong, and it's like, whoa, Mandy is a messed up character. She goes to the nurse, and the nurse thinks she should be happy about this because she's in love, and I'm like, dang, did adults really, like, convince us that love was everything and that we should just form relationships? I don't remember, honestly.
Mandy, little pumpkin, you're in love!
That's ridiculous.
But yeah, Mandy is just like, I think something's wrong with me, and she's not happy. Grim has a strong reaction to Billy's friend Piff. He's basically just like, this guy is too stone cold for me. And then Mandy asks for Grim's help to not have feelings for this guy anymore. Grim says he'll take away her ability to love, but instead just gives her a giant makeover. When Piff sees her, she's all done up and approaches him in the kitchen. Suddenly, he submits to her and is like, wow, like, you're right, you are attractive. And I guess it just shows her that she can be that strong. I feel like it's such a weird premise, this one. But the concept of Mandy having an insecurity like this is so funny. I feel like it's such a good plot. So yeah, the third segment is called Love is Evol, spelled backwards. And this is actually about Billy's mom's sister. So it's this desperate woman, and they play it up for jokes so hard. Like, this woman isn't in a relationship, and she's talking as if her life is meaningless and purposeless. And she's like essentially babysitting the kids in this episode.
Your Aunt Sis is a spinster! That means she hasn't had anybody to love in her pathetic, lonely life.
Nurgle gets his eyes on her and is like, okay, I'm gonna woo her, which is insane. It's like he's attracted to her loneliness because he himself has this goal of having like eternal friendship or acceptance from somebody, which is kind of depressing, especially the fact that he only thinks he can get it from somebody who is desperate enough to need it. Obviously, Billy, Mandy, and Grim don't really approve of this, with Billy being the most triggered because Nurgle could be his uncle. So Billy tries again and again to get in the way of their relationship so they don't end up being together. While it seems obvious that Nurgle is just taking advantage of this woman for her being desperate, and because she's not really into anything going on, it gets flipped on its head because he gets stung by bees and starts to dance, and that actually convinces her that she likes him. What? So yeah, I guess it's all about their love story. I think this actually continues throughout the show, but Billy ends up not winning. Like, they end up getting married, and that's how it ends. And it's so funny when characters don't actually reach their goals. It's like, what are these writers going through that they wanted that to happen? But yeah, it's interesting. I never thought you could have all the segments of your episode be in the same theme as one another. Like, usually you split single episodes into two halves, but the fact that they split it into three and then had a consistent theme makes me think that these production codes are kind of a mess. But yeah, that was episode 13. Don't know what to say about it, really. Oh, then the next episode I really loved. It's called The Crawling Niceness, and this is about Billy having a son. It's funny because it starts off with like this cold opening where Billy is attached to a string and about to be eaten by a spider. So we think it's gonna go haywire. But then it actually doesn't end up being about that. It ends up being Billy going into Grimm's case once again, even though he warns him.
Huh? Where am I? Who are you people?
And getting what he thinks is soda, but it ends up being an egg. I don't know why there's some randomly placed jokes in here, like when Billy looks at the egg and the chicken is spanking him. I don't understand what these guys were trying to make a joke of. We find out in the earlier bit of this episode that Billy hates spiders, he hates insects, he hates all that kind of stuff. He's like, just kill it, I don't care. So when he finds this egg and it actually hatches, a little spider comes out and it thinks that Billy is its dad. And Billy is obviously disturbed by spiders, so he wants it dead.
I hate bugs! Hate!
He can't get Grimm's help because obviously Grimm is mad at him for going in the case, so he tries to pretend like it's not actually happening. And then the spider grows up to be full size, and its name is Jeff, just like Billy asked for it to be. It's kind of sweet, actually. But Billy rejects this spider at every chance, and he even tries to get Mandy and Grimm to come over and kill it for him. The entire time Billy is trying to kill this guy, he's basically doing nice things for him and the people around him, like improving his life at every turn. But Billy does not care, because he's a spider. He's essentially like, nope, just kill him, we gotta get rid of him. And then it's sad because Jeff realizes that his father is trying to kill him, so he's like, you know what, if it makes you proud, I'll kill myself. Calls the exterminator on himself, and it's just crazy how it takes this turn. The show is insane. They call the exterminator, he shows up, and instead of actually killing Jeff, he realizes Jeff's potential and takes him in as his son. Aww, it's kind of twisted in a way. It's like a foster kid story, but at the same time, Billy is just a bad dad. I don't even know what to make of this. I do like Jeff as a character, though. I forgot that he was introduced this early on into the series, and seeing Billy be so stuck up in his way, like, this is the only time you see Billy be angry as a person. He's usually this goofy guy, but every time this spider comes in, he is for some reason really resentful. Then we have another segment about pets. It's called Smarten Up, and in this one, Billy is actually caring that he has bad grades. He needs to pass a test, and if he doesn't, it's something bad's gonna happen. Grim gives him this little worm that actually is supposed to crawl into his brain if he eats it and be smart for him. They have a little how-to video about how this worm would go into Billy's head and then, like, control him. And it's kind of funny because you're like, okay, it's twisted, but I guess that's how it works. But instead of Billy actually getting it, the cat gets to it first. Milkshake.
No milkshakes! No! Hey, what gives?
Milkshake is a little pink cat, and he is so funny. Especially when this worm gets into his head, he becomes a genius and kind of obnoxious. With Billy thinking they're gonna be like best friends, the cat ends up just not being cool with him because of how stupid he is. And it kind of is sad. Like, imagine being rejected by your cat. Oh, I think about that every day. I have 2 cats at home, and I love them so much. And the idea that if they came to life and became smart, that they would realize I'm stupid and not be friends with me really scares me. That sounds like a nightmare. The cat ends up helping Billy study, but he gets really fed up with him. So they're sitting on the couch and Milkshake comes back just normal. I guess the whole thing was resolved without the characters needing to do anything. Grim explains that it probably just went out in the cat's poop. And it's confirmed when Mandy's dog comes in and is a genius. So, ew, it implies that he ate that, but I'm gonna move on from that. We don't really need to get into this. The third segment I'm really excited about, it's called The Grimm Show, and it's not what I expected. So one of Grimm's favorite shows has just gotten canceled, and apparently the studio is right across the street. It's got another Elvira-like character to just show, I guess that's Grimm's type. And so he goes there and there's a whole show business going on. Grimm confronts the guy who canceled the show, and then he takes his life. Okay, I think this is the first time I've seen Grimm actually exercise his ability to take people's lives. Like, usually it's just some supernatural thing that allows him to do something, but now in this, he's doing his normal Grimm powers. You know the craziest part, though? This entire thing is being filmed live because Billy and Mandy can see it from their TV. They watch Grimm kill this guy on live television. Then he brings all of his friends from the underworld, and it's this whole parody of late night television where he has a supernatural substitute for everything it would take to do a full production. We don't really get to see the show pan out. We just see a montage of them acting like they're doing the show. Grimm becomes a diva with Mandy approaching him in his dressing room, and I love seeing Diva Grimm. It's so funny to see him think he has confidence, but it's only because of some external reason. The show becomes wildly popular apparently, like with people even having action figures of Grimm, but we don't really go too hard on how popular he gets. I feel like it's more talked about than actually shown. And Mandy gets fed up. It basically feels like she's like, you've stepped out of your place and I need to return you, which is really dark. Mandy, like, is really entitled to power. She does the thing that could get him canceled, which is showing a video of him being sweet and caring. So suddenly, his public image of being like this underground, scary, life-taking reaper is that he actually has a sensitive side, and if everybody were to see it, he would be embarrassed, which is really funny. His show gets canceled for this exact reason, probably the same way Colbert did, and Grimm becomes a laughingstock of the whole country.
No, Mandy, please!
It ends with Billy and Mandy sitting on his guest's chair, and it ends with him just being depressed that it didn't work out. But I really like this episode. I just wish we saw a lot more of Grimm's actual show, like how he presented himself on camera, because it was always a montage in this, and I really wanted to see it. But overall, this was a fun watch.
Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
Okay, so when we get to episode 16, we have two. It's 5 o'clock Shadows and Terror of the Black Knight. With 5 o'clock Shadows, it's actually the darkest episode I feel like I've ever seen, but only thus far because I can't really remember anything that happens after this. So the premise is that Billy is actually scared of his shadow, which is kind of a cute concept, but on the side of realism, you're telling me you've never seen your shadow before? I don't know, it's definitely a new level of stupid for Billy. He asks Grim where shadows come from, which is actually one of the funniest jokes in this show. So Grim doesn't really want to answer these questions for Billy, which fair enough, they're very stupid. So Grim is like, I'm gonna take you to the shadow world. Oh my gosh, there's a shadow world. Such a cool concept though. It follows like a very obvious plot that this show has set up where it's like Billy's curious about something, Grim warns him why he should not be curious about it, and then he goes through anyway. Mandy is the one who helps convince them that they should actually do this, which, okay Mandy, if you're into it, I guess they were into it. So Grim takes them to the shadow world, and it looks exactly like the regular world, which I kind of saw coming. But then it turns out that there are shadow versions of each character, kind of opposite of what they're like. Like Mandy has positive, peppy version of herself, which obviously she finds super annoying.
In my enchanted unicorn garden? Grim, destroy her. Now!
Billy's shadow self is actually dumber than regular Billy, which I find hilarious. And there's a really specific rule about this world where they can't go through doors, which, why is that a rule? I guess we're about to find out. Turns out they're stuck in this realm for at least 24 hours. Like, they have to stay before they are let back into the real world. And it kind of reminds me of the yin-yang world, not in terms of the time, but in terms of, like, the backwardness. Yin-yang world in Shaolin Showdown is this, like, land of opposites and positives, and I don't know, it's just kind of trippy. If you've seen that show, you know what I'm talking about. So the plot is essentially them having to put up with their shadows for the next 24 hours. So we think this is about to be an episode where Billy and Mandy are completely boggled down by the dark realities of this dimension, but then we kind of get a spirit for what the show is actually like, because Billy and Mandy essentially ruin the shadow world. And this show is really good at flipping you up on your expectations, because Billy and Mandy are the most simple, mundane kids, but everything that, like, comes from the underworld or Grim has such a visceral reaction to them. Like, for some reason, they are in complete control, and they don't even seem like they want to be. Except for Mandy, of course. Immediately, Billy goes because he's curious about a door, and he meets this giant pickle-like man, revealing that there's a million different Billy shadows, and if he goes through that door, oh wait, it already happens. There's a million Billies. So yeah, he takes over the shadow world by essentially making a million duplicates of himself by going through one of the doors. And then we cut back to Mandy, who is really tortured by playful Mandy. Like, this girl is positive and everything that Mandy is not. She doesn't understand real Mandy, and essentially it feels like we're empathizing with the shadow more than we are with Mandy. And she seems like really dark in this moment because of how her energy affects her counterpart, and she ruins her stuffed animal, which is kind of rude. Billy has a little bit of fun in games with him and his counterparts, and that's obviously a really funny bit. Check it out. And yeah, Mandy ends up convincing positive Mandy to hate her life and not see anything positively, pretty much transforming her into normal Mandy, showing that Mandy is so powerful that her negativity can actually transform the most positive of people. I always thought it was like a dark concept to show that Mandy's negative is so strong, because it's like, what a weird counter argument, but it's really funny in this context, so what are you gonna do? I guess this episode is 2 out of the 3 segments in this special because it pretty much took up 2 segments. Surprise, the ending isn't positive. If you guys seen this show a million times, you'd know that that's normal at this point. And a million Billies return back to the normal world. Okay. Come on, Grim. So then we got the episode, The Terror of the Black Knight. This is a 7-minute episode. I don't know how they divvied these episodes up, but it's all of them at a medieval convention. Not sure if you guys ever been to it, but it's where you dress up in medieval clothes and support all these old ideals like jousting or mutton. I don't know. That's my explanation of something like this. Billy refers to it as just like home, which is just straightforward, not the truth. And Grim goes as a princess. But it's funny because we get to see Grim's pretentious side in terms of his job. Like, he's talking about how medieval times is glorified and the Black Plague was so much better. Oh my god.
Not that great. It lacks authenticity. I had so much fun during the real Black Plague. and this just stinks.
It's moments like these where I realized how impressive the writing is. Like, Grimm is so authentically put to be the Grim Reaper. It's not even just like a bit, it's just his entire personality. I love it. They get away with saying a bad word, and Arwen is the one who utters it. Look at this scene. Billy gets jealous because everybody likes Erwin's outfit way more than his, and he's kind of a show-off at this event. Grimm takes this as an ego trip and says he can get Billy the best medieval outfit ever made, and it turns out to be a supernatural knight's outfit, which is actually really cool looking. It's a recurring joke that Billy likes the punch that's served at these festivals, which is like, why is punch the main source? But there's a catch that comes with the suit, is that Billy can't take it off until he wins a battle, which the only reason that's a big issue is because he has to go to the bathroom. So next thing you know, we have an entire episode about Billy's goal being to go to the bathroom, but the suit is on. Why is this the plot? He tries to take on as many people as possible, starting with Arwen, and he doesn't actually defeat him, so he has to go to somebody else. He goes Puddin', and Puddin' is such a funny character. They do an eating competition, and Billy ends up eating all his pies, and Billy just has to go to the bathroom at this point. He needs a win. Next thing you know, he begs Mandy to duel him and just let him win because he needs to go. I never realized such desperation would come from this character trope. He ends up challenging Mandy to a dance-off. Pretty quickly, she admits she doesn't want to participate, and he wins the competition. Pretty anticlimactic ending to the episode, but otherwise it's pretty funny. I like that we're actually in a medieval time. We have Grimm's commentary on the whole thing. Like, it's definitely cute for the show.
This is the end. Smash your television.
Then the next episode we have 17, Grimm for a Day. I feel like if I didn't already know this show, this would be the perfect episode to start with. It's essentially Billy, Mandy, and Grimm switch places for a day to see who has the harder life. And oh my gosh, this trope has been done so many times before. But why is it so interesting in this scenario? Well, maybe because the Grim Reaper's entire job is taking people's lives. Like, that is such a funny concept to have a normal kid switch with the Grim Reaper. And his biggest argument is that nobody's ever glad to see him. And I totally get that, Grim. That's some negative mental health on you. So it's even funnier because Grim goes in dressed as Billy, which does not fit at all. He's fitting in and having a good time at school, and Grimm is just, he's living La Vida Loca. Meanwhile, Billy is trying to take somebody's life, which already pretty dark concept, and for probably 3 separate scenes, we have this old man walking to the door. And right when Billy's supposed to reap him, he doesn't even let him, he just gives him a piece of candy and leaves.
There you go, little fella.
But I'm the Grim Reaper!
Then conflict actually happens when Grimm starts turning into Billy. One by one, his nose, his feet, he's becoming Billy. And that's the same thing with Billy. He gets skeleton legs and he's turning into Grimm. With them just both running fast as possible to try to get to one another, they just end up turning into each other, and that is the end. Okay, so I guess nobody won, question mark? Then we got a funny Dragon Ball Z parody. This episode's called Chicken Ball Z, and I've always thought this one was kind of gross just because of the chicken ball part, but at least it's a Mandy episode. Like, she's doing karate in this episode. Clearly Billy does not want to be a part of it as she beats him up. So Mandy really wants to win the karate competition because it's a $50,000 prize. When she asks Grimm for some kind of special help to do it, he is denying her, which makes her kind of insecure. She's like, oh, I'm relying too much on Grimm's support, which is kind of crazy that she's like that. Strive for power, that she doesn't want to take help. So she ends up finding this mystery shop with a suspicious man, but it's also kind of like a thrift store. I can't tell if it's like a fortune teller or what. And he tells her that she can have extreme superpowers, like being able to win this championship by having this ball of meat. And it is disgusting looking. It has an eyeball, a bone, and I don't know why in the world Mandy would consider eating this, but she does. So next thing you know, we're at the competition and she has some Goku Super Saiyan hair. The reference is not subtle here. So one by one, she's taken on different people, like Spurg is one of them, then a bunch of random kids, and Mandy is completely dominating the competition. Finally, in the end, she ends up winning, but power is gone to her head and it's not enough. Grimm ends up meeting this mystery man that works at the shop, and he learns pretty quickly that this guy has no good intentions. Why? Because he is Eris. Yeah, he transforms back to normal.
Oh, pooh.
you bonehead.
Grim decides to have fun with this, so he ends up giving the chicken ball to Billy, having him become Super Saiyan and take down Mandy. Oh my gosh. So this is all out of their pure entertainment, but watching Billy and Mandy go Super Saiyan on each other is really funny. It's like all the anime tropes in one sitting, and it's just funny seeing Western humor parody something like Japanese humor. She ends up using the money to buy an island from this bear with a brain in a tank, which this guy's gonna come back a couple times, but it's just funny that he's here. We also see a glimpse of some of the other characters that'll come up later, but we'll talk about them later. And she essentially buys an island, and that's where it ends, okay? So Billy, Mandy, Erwin, and Grim end up missing this whole field trip they're supposed to go on for school, so Grim tries to make it up to them by taking them to the Halls of Time. He calls on this mystery underground machine to come pick them up and whisk them into the sky. We get this really trippy clock-like world and a clockwork-like character with his own scythe and a baby. I think there's this trope whenever they do time references that there has to be an old man and a young child, but this one's actually just kind of making fun of itself, which I like. It just occurs to me that they don't even care that Erwin knows about Grim. Like, this is not a secret like most shows. Like, Grim is just the Grim Reaper and it's a fact. Like, some people will still be scared of him, like the bus driver in this scenario, but for the most part, he just exists and there's no secrets here. It's funny, the way they portray time in this is this large metal factory, kind of like the industrial era, and it also gives like Willy Wonka vibes where it's like this beautiful place where time is made and Billy and Arwen run off to do their own thing, kind of like that bubble scene in Willy Wonka. They get directions from the baby and it's pretty dark thinking about this concept because there's a bunch of hourglasses that Erwin and Billy stumble upon, and it turns out each of them represents people's lives and how much longer they get to live. And whoa, this is really dark. Like, you can mess with the sands of time and it could turn you back into a baby. It could turn everything forward in time to where you're an adult. Like, it is a really trippy concept. They even end up killing Billy's dad. Oh my gosh, this show has like no remorse. Mandy ends up looking for Arwen and Billy, and oh gosh, they end up stumbling upon Grim's time, which is insane. This is so scary. The Master of Time gets really upset, and so does Grim, as they pretty much have to leave after this. Turns out they ended up leaving before they actually fixed the sands of time, and one by one they all transform back into children on their way back.
Hey, Chihuahua! Mandy?
Do you think maybe those dopes put the hourglasses back upside down? We gotta go back and put him right side up before we disappear.
Grim is the only one who could kind of save this moment, so he's like, okay, we gotta get back here. Takes the kids who keep getting younger and younger and head back to the Father of Time. But then it gets really depressing as everybody starts disappearing. Grim doesn't have any remorse, and we see them literally in the prepubescent stage, which is kind of disturbing. Grim is about to save his own life at his own hourglass, but right at the last minute, he disappears too. And that's the end. Okay. I really feel scared of this show a lot of the times when I'm watching it, because these concepts are scarily real, you know? But it's definitely really good storytelling. Like, I can't believe how impressive this concept is to me. Then we got, ironically, the Halloween episode of Billy and Mandy, which is kind of funny because it's like, literally it felt like every episode up until this point was a Halloween episode, but whatever. It's called Billy and Mandy's Jacked Up Halloween, and it's the first like full episode of Billy and Mandy, like where it's not just split into two parts, but this entire situation is all one episode. And I had to do it last year for my Halloween specials, but I kind of wanted to go over it again in a new way because my perspective has changed. We get a nice opening with actual cinematic experiences, and we get to see Ennsville the way it was meant to be. Super horror. This time with intention, where everything is always passive horror, but this time it actually is trying to be. Billy didn't know up until now that it was Halloween, until Mandy shows up dressed as Hamlet, with Grim in her hand, which is definitely a funny reference. I'm not sure if you guys know what Shakespeare is. Yeah, this little guy that worked at a 7-Eleven up the street. He's really cool, actually. But yeah, Mandy's going as him, and then Billy's going as the Grim Reaper, which I find really insulting. Gotta have a lot of gall to go up as somebody else. But hey, at least we don't have to talk about Arwen's outfit. He literally dresses up as a princess just to win over Mandy, which I don't know how he thought this would woo her, but whatever. She just ends up dipping on him. So Arwen's whole subplot in this episode, the least important, but he's just trying to find the perfect Halloween outfit to impress Mandy. So then later, Billy and Mandy and Grim go trick-or-treating, only to find this really stubborn woman that does not want to give them candy. Billy isn't upset at first until Mandy is like, we need to make a big deal out of this, and actually prank this person. So she pours super glue onto the mat and pretty much abuses this elderly woman, leaving her crying. She ends up stealing all this person's candy, and they don't even need to go trick-or-treating anymore. Okay, this is an interesting intro to an episode. I feel like since they're a half hour long now, like, they actually can dive into more interesting topics that build off of one another, as opposed to, like, this is where the episode would end on a normal episode of Billy and Mandy. But here, they're hanging out at the graveyard, nice aesthetic, as they're talking over candy. Reminds me of when we used to go trick-or-treating. We used to, like, trade our candy or bet them, you know, because I didn't really want the York Peppermint Patty, but I did want the Reese's, so I'm gonna have to go with that. Grim tells them a story that is about Jack-o'-lantern, and this is where the whole concept comes in. Basically, it's about this guy that loved to prank people, and when he ended up pranking the wrong person, like, I don't know, the queen, they ordered to have his head chopped off, which you can imagine that was normal. But hey, guess who it was? It was Grim. Yeah, so this story is kind of with purpose, because Grim did this horrible thing to this man, all because he was joking around. Billy, I would be terrified if I were you.
I granted him eternal life, but the Grim Reaper does not like being tricked.
The cinematography in this is really cool, though. I love it when they're telling a story and showing us this character with all the details. Like, it is really nice that they took their time on this. Of course, they knew Halloween had to be one-upped. You know, like, they always have this aesthetic. But yeah, Grim chops off his head, gives him a pumpkin for a head, and he survives on this little mountain, kind of like the Grinch of Halloween. He gets further and isolated from the entire town, and it's definitely kind of freaky looking. Billy doesn't really believe it, and they're all chilling in the graveyard about it, when Billy actually decides he wants to go trick-or-treating at this man's house, and only Billy is stupid enough to go to downtown Ennsville and actually want to see this guy after that horrifying story. It reminds me of, like, Cindy Lou Who and the Grinch. It's kind of a funny concept. When the Pumpkin Man finds out that Billy has actually Grim's scythe, he definitely takes advantage of him, takes the scythe, and ends up having all the powers Grim had, which is dangerous because clearly he's been wronged by the Grim before, so he's going to take revenge for sure. He ends up going to the graveyard, getting all these pumpkins, and filling them with real-life ghostly spirits. So the underworld essentially is colliding with Ennsville, which, I don't know, I feel like I've seen worse on this show before.
Now that's what I call Halloween spirit.
So yeah, this guy essentially takes over the entire town, and I don't know how Mandy and Grim have yet to notice. Like, it takes until Billy shows up with a giant pumpkin to realize something is wrong. Then they remember that the original Jack, before his head was gone, was super into pranks, and he can't resist them. Like, that's all he cares about. I like that that's how his character flaw. So Mandy and Billy kind of team up when he's about to hurt Grim to make a bunch of pranks go on all at once, getting him to laugh, and it works. It works really well. So he's about to take down everybody in Ennsville, and even though it works really well, they're still not able to defeat him. He catches them at every turn. In the end, though, guess who saves the day? Yeah, Erwin has the perfect costume. It's a knight in shining armor, but the whole point is that he is a klutz wearing it. Like, he falls down, ends up eating bees by accident, and everybody just laughs so hard that the spirits die and everybody is saved. Didn't realize that that was a possible solution. But this gives Grim enough time to get his scythe back and stop Jack, throw him back into the underworld. The point is, it's a really good Halloween special with Jack being sent right to the underworld. They really utilized everything Billy and Mandy had going for it to make this Halloween special good. Like, we've got the great animation, the colors, the internal backstory between Jack and Grim, and then somehow, like, fun and games between Billy, Mandy, and the jokes they play on Arwen. I don't know, they just do a really good job at capturing the aesthetic of Billy and Mandy in this moment, which is the perfect end to the first season. Wow. Okay, so yeah, that was 18 episodes, definitely over like 45 segments, so you guys have to give me a break after this. I can't believe how long this took. I can't tell if I'm supposed to go to the next season of Grim Adventures, or go to Foster's, or even go back to Ed, Edd n Eddy. I'm still kind of feeling my way through the animation stuff, as it gets a lot less views than the normal videos, so anything you guys want, just let me know. I'm gonna try to go in that direction. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching the darkest season of television I've ever seen. Like, I think this entire show was a nightmare trip, in a way that Courage never exactly was, because these guys switch it up like every segment. And given how many plots they have, it feels like the show is 3 seasons in, when really there's only 18 episodes. So I'm excited to revisit the other ones if that's the case. Thank you guys so much, and if there's any episodes you wanted to shout out in this that you liked, that you think I should have went more in depth on, please feel free. And otherwise, guys, happy Halloween, okay? Have a good night!
I don't know. I think we look pretty cute.
For the first time ever, Billy, Mandy, and Grim are coming to a video game. All the bizarre supernatural fun of the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy is